Hi there, Leonard Parker here, owner of Destiny Marketing Solutions, and in this video I'm going to go over how you can use analytics that can really help drive the decisions that you make for your digital marketing campaign. So for the purpose of this video, I'm really going to dive deep with Google Analytics and Google Search Console. But if you're doing anything outside, such as maybe Facebook advertising, LinkedIn advertising, or advertising on any other platform, you still want to look at the same data. And if you are interested, I can make a video. Just comment on which platform you're using or where you would like to see a video, and I can put that together for you. Now, first I'll go into Google Analytics, and if you don't have this set up on your website, it's a must if you plan on doing anything online, whether that's SEO, pay-per-click advertising, and so on, because this is really the dashboard that will tell you where your traffic is coming from for the website and really what's happening once that traffic hits your website. So for this video, I'm really going to focus on how to look at different channels and what outcomes are coming from those channels. So you can tell that if you are getting jobs from a certain traffic channel and not so much from others, well, that's a dead giveaway that you should invest more of your budget into that traffic channel. Now, if you have not set up Google Analytics, like I said, make sure you add the tracking tag to your website. It takes 5 minutes, so I highly recommend that you do it. It's really a must. Also, make sure that you set up conversion tracking so that you can track your conversions when someone submits their information, do a thank you contact us form, or if you rely more heavily on phone calls, you might want to look at call tracking, where you'll add a special number to your site, and that number will change depending on where that traffic or where that visitor came from. So you might have a different call tracking number for Google traffic than for that's different from your ads traffic. So just a few things, kind of preliminary things you need to set up to really get the most out of these tools that we're about to go over. Now, as you can see here, I'm in the Google Analytics dashboard, and by default, it does the last week. But I would say if you're really trying to make big decisions about your digital marketing campaign for your damage restoration business, you really should look at a longer time period. And I recommend, if you do have the data, at least 90 days. That will really give you a good idea on you can actually see trends, and there's enough data there to actually come to some conclusions. So today is the 19th of December. So let's go back to what's going on here. I think that would be September 19th. So that's about 90 days. And then if you do have the traffic or the data, you can compare it to a previous period. And so I'm just doing this example on one of my websites, but it'll pretty much be the same thing if you were looking at your own information. Now, a few things that you can see by default, this is sorted by the largest traffic channel, which in this case is organic search. Organic search, that's traffic coming from Google, Bing, Yahoo, and pretty much any other search engine out there. But Google is usually going to be your biggest traffic channel under organic search. So really, your SEO efforts and really even some of your other advertising efforts will have an impact on your organic search metrics. Direct traffic, that's if someone types in your URL directly or clicks a link that's maybe from one of your other properties, that's going to be your direct traffic. Referral traffic, that's if someone clicks a link from another website. Email, just as it sounds, that's traffic if you're doing any email marketing to potential customers. That's going to be traffic from email. And then social, just as it sounds, is traffic from different social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, if you are targeting businesses for your restoration services, and so on. And display is if you are running ads, this is going to be your ad traffic with your display campaign. And another one that's usually here, but for this particular site, we're not running search ads. But that's also if you are doing any paid campaigns to get any paid leads, that would be another channel that would be listed here. Now, here you have users, new users, sessions. So really what I look at over time, I would like to see an increase in overall number of users. If I am doing SEO, of course, I would like to see growth in SEO. And let's say if I was doing paid traffic, depending on my spend, whether I increased it or it stayed the same, I would like to see, some movement with my paid search traffic. New users, so basically users counts all users to the website. So if someone comes 5 times to your site, then it's going to count that 5 times. Whereas new users is only going to count the first visit for that person. Okay, and sessions, actually I got that backwards. So users is actually each unique visit to your site, and sessions is a total number of sessions. So if someone comes to your site, like I said, 5 times, it's going to be counted 5 times here under sessions, but only once under users. So this is a unique count. Bounce rate. So this is one of the metrics that you need to be aware of because it can have an impact on your SEO if your bounce rate is too high. And then you also need to drill down to see which pages. So if there are any pages on your site, I would say, it depends on the nature of your site, but you typically want to stay under 60% for your bounce rate. That means that once, let's say 3 out of every 5 or 2 out of every 5 visitors to your site actually stay on to navigate to other pages. Pages per session, exactly as it sounds, that's the average number of pages that someone visits while on your website. So you usually want that to be around 2 pages per session. And an average session duration, you want to make sure that you're around the 1 minute and 30 second mark. And then, for bounce rate over time, you want this to go down. That's a measure of how engaged people are with your website. So if you see that it's very high, you might need to look at some things like improving a website speed, improving the look and feel of the website, and making sure that your content is useful if you are using content on your site and it actually addresses the search query that person had. Other than that, pages per session, you want that to increase over time, and average session duration, you want that to increase over time as well. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you want to make sure that you have goals set up so that you can actually track the number of conversions and the conversion rate for your different traffic channels. So you can have different goals, but for this website, we're doing email sign up. But for your site, your most important goal would probably be people who are submitting their information to the contact us form for a quote or for someone to get out to do an estimate for their job, So of course, conversions, you want those to increase over time. That just means that your website is getting better at converting the traffic that's coming to it. And then you want to look at the different channels to see which channel you're getting the most conversions. So for this particular website, in the last 90 days or so, it looks like they have received the most conversions from social media. But for your site, it might be very different. If you're relying heavily on page traffic, that might be your biggest channel for leads, or it may be organic search. Who knows? But then also, you also want to make sure that your conversion rate is in line as well. So I would say a minimum would be 1%. But obviously, the greater the percentage of the traffic that you're converting, the better. But you want to keep your eye on that as well. And then I also one other thing here if you can assign a value to each call, and this would actually take some time to figure out, okay, out of all of the calls that you receive, so once they've gone to your website, they are marked as a conversion here, what's percentage of those calls actually lead to jobs offline? So where you're actually working on a job. So if out of every 10 calls, 5 of those become jobs, then great. And then you can also assign a value, an average value per job. And, if you've been in business for, any length of time, you might have an idea on that figure, but you actually assign a value for each conversion based on the percentage of those leads that become actual customers, and also the percentage or the average value of the job. So that can really help you prioritize which channels are driving the most value for your restoration business. So that's the main thing I typically look at when looking at Google Analytics. Now, some other things that you might want to consider. If we go here to conversions, sometimes, especially maybe if you offer services that aren't emergency focus. So maybe you offer roofing restoration, and part of that restoration is that you can do an annual maintenance program. You want to look at your conversion paths. So if you're back in the back end of Google Analytics, you'll go to conversions, multi-channel funnels, top conversion paths, and this will tell you which channels people are using. If they're touching your website multiple times, which channels are leading to the most conversions. So you can see here for this particular website, organic search followed by a referral visitor is driving the most conversions. This again is sorted by default. So yeah, that's good to know. So if you know, for instance, that maybe the first screen we're looking at, a lot of the leads came through organic, but if you know that most of them are coming maybe from a referral website first, then coming back from organic, you really want to invest heavily in whatever that referral site is. So that's how I use this. And then for assisted conversions, this pretty much measures the role that a particular channel plays in getting that lead. So we see here organic search. So last click conversions, those are I Google your website, find your business, and then I actually submit my information. That's a last click conversion. Whereas assisted conversions, if you are a fan of hockey or basketball, is basically it's the step before that person submits their information. So let's say it may not be relevant for emergency restoration job, but if it's someone who is looking for roofing restoration and they're looking more for a maintenance service, well, then in that case, they may first go to Google and then kind of do their research there, look at the different service providers in their area, and then they might check out the service providers on other review websites or on social media to see how customers have fared with them, if they have good feedback, and then they might actually click through from their Facebook page, for example, go to the website, then submit their information. So in that case, organic played the assisted role because it's how they first discovered that that particular business. But then Facebook, it played the last click or direct conversion role because that's the channel they use to actually click through to the website to submit their information and become a lead. And that can get a little complicated, especially if you have multiple touches. However, usually in the emergency restoration business, someone is looking to get started right away, so they may not go through all of those different touch points when they have a foot of water in their living room. So one way you can kind of gauge on what role a particular channel plays in getting that lead is this measure right here. It's going to be in the last column, and it's the assisted over the last click or the direct conversions. So pretty much when this measure is close to 1, that means that it has maybe an equal weighting for assisted conversions and last click conversions. When it's well over 1, so in this case, organic search, it's almost at 3, then that means it plays a greater role in assisted conversions. Whereas if it's under 1, as we see here with direct, so this is almost at 0.5 or 0.6, so 0.57, that means that most people who come through direct and actually convert, that's the final touch point. So this is a great way to know, okay, I know that most people are going to find my restoration business through organic first, but then if they don't convert, what are some other ways that they're converting after that initial touch? And that's how you can get a higher level view on which channels you really should be investing in with your marketing. And one other thing I wanted to note here for referral, because referral can be a number of different websites or channels itself. So you can actually see here which website that the referral traffic and referral conversions are coming from. And then let's just say if we saw that your Facebook page, or maybe not Facebook page, but your Home Advisor page is driving a ton of referrals, then that tells you that, hey, maybe it's time to think about more premium options with Home Advisor or devoting more budget that way. But that's really where we're at with the referral traffic and figuring out where your conversions are coming from. And then one last thing I didn't go over here, acquisition, traffic channels. So remember when we said it to compare periods? So really you also want to look at the growth. So whatever it is, 30 days or the previous 90 days, you always want to compare that to the previous period to make sure that you're in the positive for these different channels. And the takeaway is, if you are investing more time or money into a particular channel, you should see growth in that channel compared to the previous period. So you want to make sure you also pay attention to the percentage change as well. Lastly, and there's actually a ton of modules here in Google Analytics. I won't go over all of them in this video, but if you look at the behavior module, so let's say you're investing into a blogging program, you definitely want to give it time to get some traction. But if you did a drill down on all the pages, you can see which of your pages are driving the most traffic to your website from organic search, and that's all SEO. So in this case, this particular page is driving the most traffic. And so that'll tell you, once you have enough data, that'll give you insight on the different topics that people are looking for and finding you for. And then you kind of just look at the engagement metrics, and that'll tell you, okay, if I'm getting 70 to 80% of my traffic from water damage, or let's just say mold related topics, then maybe we need to double down and put out more mold content, whether that's blog articles, whether that's how-to guides with a PDF, whether that's videos. Those are the types of things you should be looking at when you're trying to figure out if you're going to blog or put new content on your website, what you should be putting content out about. Excuse me. Now, that pretty much wraps up my review of Google Analytics. But if you do have any specific questions, feel free to reach out. I'll leave our website URL in the video description, and you can have a look. Now, moving over to Google Search Console, and let's say you're just getting started with digital. This is really going to give you a good picture of your organic performance. So first thing I'll look at here is the performance module here on the left-hand side. And again, Google Search Console has a ton of cool tools here, but I'm not going to go over all of them in this video. Now let's say, so with Google Search Console, you can basically get an idea of the total number of organic clicks, total number of total impressions, average CTR, and average position. Okay, so if we sorted this by position, so actually impressions would probably be a great start. So this is one of our marketing sites. So this particular phrase, PPC advertising, it received over, actually let's do a damage restoration site. So it's some of the same keywords. Yep, this looks right. Okay. So again, I would say start by impressions. And I'm just showing you how I use Google Search Console. There are a ton of other ways to use it, but this is how I use it kind of to build my strategy. So water damage restoration, very general term, but let's see. So we have one here, cost to repair flood damage quickly, Sugar Land, Texas. So that's a suburb of Houston. We can see over the last 3 months, it's received almost 3,000 impressions. So impressions is every time your website shows up for a particular phrase in the search results. So that's not clicks, but just the number of times that it shows up. And clicks, exactly as it sounds, is the number of times someone clicked on your search listing when it showed up. So we can see here there have been no clicks. So CTR is simply the ratio of clicks over impressions. So of course, since we have 0 clicks for that phrase, there's the CTR is 0. And then the average position is 10.8. So that means it's at the bottom of page 1, top of page 2. So what that tells me is that there's a ton of search queries for this particular phrase. It's very specific. So let's say if I was a damage restoration provider in Sugar Land, water damage restoration provider in Sugar Land, this might be a phrase I want to really focus on for my SEO because 3,000 impressions, however, no clicks, and I'm at the bottom of page 1 on average. So if I could get up into the top 5 or preferably the top 3, that can be some really good website traffic that can also lead to some really good leads. And so, I would optimize for that keyword, maybe create a page on my website just targeting cost to repair flood damage and move on from there. And then I would do the same for pretty much all of these phrases that are relevant to my business, and also that there's a ton of impressions, but I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of the top 20 in the positions. Those are low hanging fruit that with a little bit of tender love and care, you can improve your search ranking and really get some good traffic on. So that's in the performance module, and it's somewhere you can really get some good data on the actual queries that people are using to find your website and how to prioritize which keywords that you're going after. So this is something I will probably review at least once a month because there's, you might have your initial list of keywords that you want to go after, but, people are maybe searching for something different. And so this is a great source of new ideas for your keyword and SEO strategy. So other than that, Google Search Console is also a great tool to diagnose technical issues with your website. So if you go to index, it tells you how many pages are on your website. So sometimes you'll see, and this is valid for us, but if you don't have a ton of pages on your site, but you saw a number like this, they'll tell you that there's something going on with the indexing of your website, something weird is going on. But sometimes if you do have errors, it'll show those here. Fortunately for this website, there are no errors. If we look at sitemaps, you always want to make sure that you submit your sitemap to the Google Search Console. And the sitemap, pretty simply, is a page that's like a directory for your website. So you ever go to the mall and you see those mall directories, it's pretty much the same idea, except it's for your website. So you want to make sure that you submit that to the Google Search Console, and it pretty much gives instructions to Google on how to crawl or review or scan your website. You always want to make sure you're using the XML version, and if possible, submit your HTML version as well. Mobile usability. So this tells you if your website is mobile friendly. So again, if there are any errors, they'll show up here. Breadcrumbs. No errors there. So yeah, so like I said, this is a great tool to use when you just kind of want to do a technical review of your website to confirm that there aren't any issues. Now, that brings me to the end of the video. Also, one more thing actually. So there's another section here called security and manual actions. So manual actions are basically when you hear about a website getting penalized, depending on the type of penalty, Google will list whatever action that is here. Security issues, so no security issues. So you always want to make sure that those stay with the green check mark, because if they aren't, then you definitely have some work to do on your website. So again, key takeaway here, you definitely want to install Google Analytics and Google Search Console on your website. If you do need any help with that, feel free to reach out to us. Again, I'll leave the website URL in the video description. And you want to make sure that you're reviewing these regularly to stay on top of any search trends or traffic trends with your damage restoration website that you can jump on top of. And like we just reviewed with Google Search Console, if there are any issues, you'll know right away. So thank you for watching the video. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We come out with videos regularly that go over different digital marketing topics for damage restoration companies. So thanks, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.